question just to see, how do we answer these questions by data analysis, right? Okay, so what is the first question? How much salary would I probably get when I come out of CEG, right? So
Hari,
this is the, sorry?
I think your slides may not be advancing.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, I think
No.
I'm viewing it, Shankar. Yeah, I think his slides are changing. Yeah, I can
It
see
is
it.
going on fine,
Okay,
Shanta.
all right, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So, it's a typical question, right? So when someone asks you, what's going to be my salary? So this is the data set, let's say you have from, last 3 years or 4 years, right? So we have 400 students who got placed in 3 lakh per annum companies. Let's say we have 300 students who got placed in 4 lakh per annum companies. Similarly, 8 lakh per annum companies, 4 lakh per annum companies, right? So this is the data set we currently have, let's say. So with this data set, how do you derive that answer, right? So typically, when you have large data set, you have so many data points. So every record here is called as a data point, right? So by analyzing all this data point, we can derive 1 or 2 data points to give an answer. So that's what is basically data analysis. So typically, we always go with average or mean. So what is average? You sum everything together and then divide by the distinct number. So here we have 400 students with 3 lakh per annum salary, 300 students with 4 lakh per annum salary. So similarly, you sum all the values and divide it by number of students. So you get the answer as 4.5 lakh per annum. So this is going to be your answer. So if someone asks you, how much is going to be my salary, so you can probably say, well, I don't know. On an average, you can get around 4.5 lakh per annum. So how did you get this number? You get this number by having a data and then having a formula, and then you get this number out of it. So this is data analytics, guys. So congrats, you have finished the data analytics 101. Cool. Okay, let me go to second question, right? This question is specific compared to the last question, right? This is what would be my salary if I have more than 9.5 CGPA? So this person asking a question is also giving another data point that his CGPA is 9.5. So whatever data set we had before, it's not enough for us, right? Because we are talking something about CGPA which was not present in the previous data set. So we need to get more drill down data set. So for example, in the same data set that we saw in the previous slide, if you also have students with 9.5 plus CGPA, then you'll have a subset. So out of this 400 people, 5 students had more than 9.5 CGPA. Out of this 300 people who got placed in 4 lakh per annum, 10 students are with 9.5 CGPA. Similarly, you have all the records. So what do? We are not worried about all the people. We are worried about a specific question, which is 9.5 plus CGPA. So we take only these number of students and get the same answer by finding average. So which is, in this case, it comes around 9.5. So if someone comes to you and then asks this question, Anna, my CGPA is blah, blah, blah. So how much would I be getting when I come out of CGPA? CEG, right? So this could be your answer. So the previous question was very general. We get the data set, we go with the basic average method and then find the value. And the next one, we have a specific question and we need more data points, and then you get this data point and then get the answer, right? And then third question, right? Now, what kinds of companies are recruiting more in recent times, right? Let's say you go to CUIC and then get the list of companies that are recruiting last 1 or 2 years, right? So they will give you a list of companies. Let's say TCS, it's a service company. So they recruited, let's say, 4,000 people. So similarly, you have a number of people recruited for each kind of companies and the company names as well, right? If I just do a pie chart with that data, so I get something like this, let's say. So this visualization itself is enough to give me the answer. So you can see this orange plot, right? So which is service industry. So service industry is recruiting close to 73% of people from CEG. So that's the answer. So what differences do we see in these 3 questions, right? So the first question is very generic question. The second question is very specific question. The third question is more of a trend, right? So when your data set grows big, you won't be able to find answers just by average or whatnot, right? You need to have some visualization to aggregate all the number and then see the results. So that's when this visualization comes into picture. So what are my takeaways, right? So analytical ability. You need to have sharp analytical skills to solve a problem. So when I say analytical skills, what do I mean? Okay, when someone asks this question, you need to think, okay, how do I answer this question? So when I say average, okay, average would be a right value. So what am I supposed to use for this question? A data set. Data set of what? Data set of students with salary. So these are all your analytical abilities. So basic math, average is a basic math. Visualization. So creating charts is visualization. Good communication. Some people are really good at creating, deriving answers and creating visualizations, but they're not really good at communicating the results to people. Because not all the people that we are talking to on an everyday basis is really good at machine learning or data science or whatnot, right? So you need to always think about the person you are talking to and then make sure they understand whatever you tell them. So these are the takeaways from the 3 questions I have mentioned. Cool. So what if the basic math just doesn't help you to solve the problem? Okay, so here's an example. I hope many of you watch cricket. So let's say you are the captain of Indian cricket team and you have to choose one among these 2 people. So whether it's Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma. So these on you have this data set, right? So Virat Kohli, what's his score in last 5 matches? Similarly, Rohit Sharma's. So if you have to choose one among them, who would you choose and how and why? Right? So what do we do typically? So typically we see average. So when I say average, so Virat Kohli is average and Rohit Sharma average, right? So if you look at this one, you see Virat Kohli is average and Rohit Sharma average, which is very similar, which is close to 48, right? But in that case, what would you do? Their averages are same. So like in the first question, we cannot just use average, right? We need some more element to get this answer. So that's when I go with variance. So variance typically, by the name it suggests, right? So it gives you, how variant they are from the mean. So variance, just to keep it simple, variance tells you, how consistent they are. So if variance is very low, which means they're really consistent. If variance is very high, they are not consistent. So that's the outcome. So not just by looking at average, I also look at variance and then choose Virat Kohli as the captain because his average is also good and he's very consistent, right? And there is another example. So instead of average, if I take median, what is median? Median is basically you arrange numbers in ascending order and then take the middle value. So for example, in Rohit Sharma case, 5, 6, 7, 12, 2, and 0, right? So I take the middle value, which is 7. Here in Rohit Sharma, I take middle value, which is 50. So when you take median, the answer is different compared to mean, right? Why? Because median is not affected by the larger values. So when we say larger values, we call it as outliers. So outliers, average is always affected by outliers. So when your data set has large of outliers, you need to use median. Or you can have average as well as variance to choose your answer. So this is not straightforward, right? So this example, the reason why I have this example is just to tell you, okay, so basic math is just not helpful in this case, right? We need some more ability to do it. So that's when statistics comes into picture. So when we say data, math and stats are the fundamental for data analytics. So takeaway here is learn basic stats. Cool. So now we have seen, what we really need to, do data analysis. So in a holistic picture, right, we can divide data analytics into 2. One is descriptive analysis, another one is predictive analysis. So when I say descriptive analysis, what does it mean? You have a bunch of this data set, right? And then you need to understand what's going on so far, what's going on right now in any given situation. So that's given by descriptive analysis. So predictive analysis, something where you have historic data set and you're trying to predict something that will happen in the future. So with past data, if you're trying to predict or if you're trying to see something what's going on right now at the present, you use descriptive analysis. Predictive analysis is always predicting things in the future. So this is the typical classification of data analytics. So I want to give you an example of what I'm trying to say here, right? So for example, I hope many of you would have participated in Kurukshetra or done some events in Kurukshetra and whatnot. So I've taken this one as an example, right? This is something that I actually did when I was in Kurukshetra marketing team. So hello. So let's say you are given last few years of Kurukshetra data set, right? And I think someone is not muted. Would you mind muting your laptop or phone, please?
Yeah, I think you muted.
Cool. So let's say you have last 4 years or 5 years of Kurukshetra data set. So when you have this data set, okay, let's say you are the Kurukshetra event core, and let's say you had 40 events last year, and this time the budget is very low, so you can't have 40 events like you had last year. So this year you are supposed to have only, let's say, 20 events. So how do you choose the 20 events, right? So what do? You take all data set, whatever happened in Kurukshetra last few years. For example, number of people who participated in different events, and number of prize money won, number of different college people, number of people participated from IIT, NIT, from Tier 1 colleges and whatnot. So you have all this data set, and you try to see which are the best performing events so far. So just by taking that data set, you can just select top 10 or top 20, and then just use the data set. So this is basically descriptive analysis. You take the past data, you analyze it using some value, and then take only the top or bottom just to know what's going on with that. So what is predictive analysis? So let's say you are the core of logistics team. You need to print tags for people who are coming to college, and you need to provide food for people coming to college, and you need to think about guests accommodation and whatnot, right? So this doesn't have, we do not have this data right now. So whatever is going to happen in the future, we don't know it, right? So how do we predict that that's going to happen in the future? That's when predictive analysis comes into picture. So by having historic data, you can predict something in the future by machine learning algorithms, and then you can get this number, and based on that you can do your logistics. So that's an example of descriptive and predictive analysis. I hope that's clear, right? And also, guys, if I'm going too fast or too slow, let me know, just to make sure. Okay, data analytics in a nutshell, right? So just by the examples that I've given so far, you can you can come to a conclusion, right? So when you're working in a business environment, similarly, for example, Kurukshetra problem, right? So when you work in a industry, they have multiple problems. So you need to first understand their business problem and try to answer those questions. So you have to be really good at understanding the business problem. So and I'm in second year college or third year college or final year college. How do I know business problem? Because I'm not exposed to any business problems, or I've not worked in any companies, right? So how do I get it? People who come to college to recruit you know that you do not have experience in industry. So that's why they ask you questions like estimation problems, puzzles, or some basic case study questions. So if you are able to sit through think about the problem and try to come up with the answer, so that gives them a proxy feeling that okay, this guy or girl can would be able to understand the problem over a period of time after training. So try to solve many puzzles, try to solve many estimation problems, try to solve case studies. So that will help you to get the business acumen later. So next, so pull relevant data for your use case. Okay, so I understand the business problem. What now? You need to get the data in your hand. So typically when we work in a college environment, we have the data set in Excel sheet, right? But when you work in a large company, for example, let's say you work in Netflix, right? All the data will not be sitting in Excel sheet. So they have large amount of data, and every bit of second, data is growing exponentially. So in that case, they have databases, they have big data platforms where they have stored all the data. So we don't want all data points to solve a particular problem. We need a specific data set to solve a particular problem. So that's when you have to know this language, which is called SQL. It's called structured query language. It's very simple. It's simple language, but it's one of the most important languages for any given data scientist. So by knowing this language, you can write query and get relevant data for your use case, and then you can do a bunch of analysis. Okay, so now I've understood the data. I got the data. So how do I analyze this? You need math and stats. That's all. So you need to learn more math and stats so that you'll be able to analyze the data. So how do I visualize it, right? Like the pie chart I showed you, right? So there are two tools mainly used in the industry. One is Excel, another one is Tableau. So I would strongly suggest you guys to learn Excel a lot. And then once you learn Excel a lot, you can go to Tableau, because the reason is Excel has some limitations. For example, you cannot have more than 1 million rows in Excel sheet. So in that case, you need to use Tableau. So once you understand how Excel works, how you can create charts and whatnot, then you can move on to Tableau. And then, okay, so you've got the data, analyze the data, you've done visualization. What is next step? So you need to present your results to people. So how do you, yeah, how do you cultivate that particular skill set, right? So in CEG, right, when I was in CEG, I didn't have many presentations, but I had many presentations in clubs that I have, not in the classes. So try to have many presentations. Even if you're not able to, have official presentations, try to have with your roommates or friends, or you can talk to seniors, and then we will arrange something. So you need to know how to present something to larger audience. Yeah, so this is data analytics in a nutshell. So I hope uh, I think I covered some decent amount of uh, a part in the data analytics, right? So we hear this term machine learning a lot in recent times, right? So what is this machine learning? So I was thinking about different examples. So this is the basic example I could come up with. Okay, you see a picture here, right? There is a baby lying on the floor. It's very cute, right? And the baby is looking at the dog. So let's say this baby is a newborn baby, right? And then the baby doesn't know about anything. And then you go to your baby and ask this question: Hey, who is this? The baby doesn't know it's a dog, right? So what do? You teach the baby. Okay, so this is the dog. Okay, the next time the baby sees another dog, what do? You say this is another dog. So you keep teaching baby, right? So over a period of time, baby looks at different dogs, and then it automatically detects a dog. Let's say after 1 year or 2 years, you give a book to your baby when they go to first class or whatever, without even telling them, what a dog is. They can easily spot a dog in the book. So how does it happen? So what happens is, in human brain, right? We try to learn things that we didn't know before, and then after learning everything, right, we try to detect some patterns between everything. So the baby, what it does is, it basically looks at all the dogs, and then it tries to get some patterns among it. Hello, I think someone is not muted, please. uh, so what baby basically does is it's trying to create patterns among dogs, and tries to store it in its brain. How? For example, okay, so if a species has a tail, or if it looks in this particular shape, or if it makes sound bow bow, it's a dog. So their brain is detecting different patterns on its own by looking at different dogs, and then it stores in its brain. So that's how it's automatically able to spot a dog. So that's exactly is machine learning. So how you teach a baby to learn something out of all these training data sets? It's basically machine learning, right? So this is a comparison of baby versus computer, right? So what do? Baby doesn't know anything, first of all, and we teach the baby the animal next to it's a dog, right? And computer also doesn't know anything about a dog. So what is the next step? So baby looks at multiple dogs growing up, right? So how does computer know? So we need to feed more training data with dog images to the computer, just like baby looks at different dogs. And what's next? Baby derives some pattern in its mind. Okay, how a dog looks like, for instance, tail, shape, sound, and whatnot, right? Similarly, computer also derives pattern from the given data set of images, just like a baby, right? And then what happens next? So after learning everything on its own by the data set that we provided to computer, using those pattern, when you give a new value, it will be able to automatically assign it. For example, baby, if you give a dog picture, baby will say, "Hey, dog," or "Bobo," right? Similarly, after learning everything from computer will be able to tell it's a dog. So I think this gives basic understanding of what machine learning is. Okay, so you have some understanding of machine learning. So what is that? So computer doesn't know anything first, and we need to train the computer by giving lots and lots of data. Okay, and then we have a bunch of multiple machine learning algorithms. When I say ML, it basically means machine learning, guys. FYI. So we feed a lot of data into computer and machine learning algorithms. So these machine learning algorithms are useful to detect pattern from the given data set. So after learning the patterns, if you show any dog picture, it will be able to find it. So this is what is fundamentally happening behind machine learning. right? So what are some of real-time examples? Let's say I hope many of you watch Netflix, for example, right? So Netflix is trying to whenever you open Netflix, you see bunch of shows shown in your home page, right, in Netflix. But the shows, whatever you are seeing in your computer with your login, will be different from someone sitting next to you. So how does it happen? Netflix basically learns. Netflix has all users' behavior data, right? So all this user behavior data set is fed into computer, and then we have, as I mentioned before, there are so many machine learning algorithms, and we have a bunch of recommendation algorithms. So this recommendation algorithm will be detecting different patterns from it. So after learning, what you'd probably like based on your user history, or if you are a new user where we do not have a user history for you, so we find the algorithm will find a similar person to you and then try to give recommendation to you. So that's how recommendation basically works, guys. It's core machine learning. And let's say another example, Tesla, right? So we see a lot of self-driving cars. So cars cars go without drivers, right? How does it happen? Same thing, guys. So computer doesn't know anything, and then we have bunch of drivers data sets. So I live in Mountain View next to Google. So if you ever come to Mountain View, you can see bunch of cars roaming around there. So what does it do is basically, they have sensors all around the car. So that will basically capture all information about whatever is happening outside of the car. And also driver's pattern of driving and everything is recorded inside of the car. So using all this information, so they feed this information into a computer, so that the computer, the machine learning algorithm will find all the pattern and everything, and then it will use it in self-driving cars. For example, right, when a self-driving car goes and then it sees a red light, it will detect that as a red light, and then it will stop. So we are not teaching anything to the car, but because of the data set, whatever we gave already, so it is trying to find a pattern. Okay, so out of 100 people, 99 people stopped at red signal. So that's a pattern it finds from the given data set. So whenever it finds a red pole, so it will just stop. So similarly for green, for if pedestrian crosses, or to maintain the speed and whatnot. So that's how self-driving cars learn everything. So here is one thing, right? So one main important thing is, for example, in the Tesla example, what I've given. So let's say out of 99 people, let's say your data is it's not very good, let's say. So you have collected data points with all all bad drivers who do not stop at red signals, who hit passengers, who hit pedestrians and whatnot. So if then the machine learning will also learn from it, and if it sees any pedestrian, it will just hit it. So is it the problem with self-driving cars? No. So it's the problem with the data set. So whenever you learn, whenever you train a model with machine learning, you need to be always aware of the data set that you have in your hand, that you are going to provide to data sets. So what it basically does is, it learns everything from whatever you have given to the computer, and then using patterns, it's gonna do the same at the end of the day. So I think so. This example would make it clear, I guess. So Satapan will take it from here.
Yeah. So can you go to the next slide, Hari? So I'm just going to give a short intro on the 4 type of roles that you would normally find in the analytics industry. One is the consultant, the other one is the data analyst, the third one is the data engineer, and the fourth one is the data scientist. So a consultant is someone who identifies what is a problem. So once he identifies he's the one who initially interacts with the team members of the clients to identify the problem that they are facing, and then proposes a step of solutions that should be followed by the analysts, engineers, or the scientists. So now what does a data analyst do? So like Hariharan initially mentioned, there are 2 types of analytics when you look at it. One is a descriptive, the other one is the predictive or prescriptive analytics. So a descriptive analytics is looking at something that has already happened and analyzing or taking insights from it. So that particular role is done by the data analyst here, So let's assume that if you are looking at the Kurukshetra example, you would have the data set that contains the information about all the programs that are conducted as part of the Kurukshetra, the fundings, and then you will try to find the insights from that particular data which has already happened. So that is where your analyst comes in. Now, what does your data scientist do? The data scientist is actually involved in your predictive or your prescriptive analytics. So from your data set that you already have, you have to predict how much or what type of events that you could allocate with the available budget of money that you have. So that is where your data scientists come in. So they take your data and they predict a future state, or they take your data, they predict a future state and also provide a set of steps that you should do. So that is your data scientist. Now, then what does data engineer do? A data engineer is someone who maintains the infrastructure of the organization. So a data engineer takes care of sending your data, which is residing on your physical systems, to the cloud server, maintaining the data there, and then making sure that your data, your infrastructure is functioning properly. So with that in mind, let's just move into cycle of activities that are performed with the data analysis. So your first step is your business objective. So as I said, the business objective and the feasibility study comes under the purview of a consultant. So when you're talking about a business objective, it's always about identifying the problem. So let's assume that your client comes and tells you that, hey, my revenue is falling, or my this particular business unit that I have is not functioning properly. Is that a problem? It is not a problem. If you think about it, it is actually a symptom. If we could draw an analogy to the doctor, so when you go and tell a doctor that you have a fever, your fever is not actually a disease. Your fever is a symptom that you could have a disease. So what does a doctor do? He asks you a set of questions. Do you have a migraine? Do you have a sore throat? Do you have a headache? Or do you have some body pain? And with the answers you give, he tries to identify the problem that you currently have. So that is exactly what a consultant does. He co-discovers the problem with the client. So in the consultant terminology, there is a 80-20 rule. So in the 80-20 rule means that 80% of the time that you have for this project should be done or should be spent on identifying what the right problem is. So if you identify a problem that is not a concern of your CXOs, CXO is someone who is heading the organization, who could be CEO, a chief executive officer, or a chief information officer, a chief technology officer. So if your problem is not a concern for the CXOs, then it is not actually a problem that you have to solve. So then you have to go ahead and talk to different business units. You have to identify the stakeholders that are invested in the project. From there, you identify what is the root cause of the problem. So this particular thing is called root cause analysis. So once you've done the root cause analysis, you identify what the actual problem is. Then you do the feasibility study. So once you found the problem, you have to spend 20% of your time that you have in identifying how to solve the problem. So there are several ways that you could solve a particular problem. It could be, let's say, it could be hiring a new set of people, or retraining the existing retraining the people with the existing skill set to a cross functionality. A lot of solutions. So you have to do a feasibility study to identify which particular solution will be apt for the problem that I have in hand. So then your feasibility study will also involve your gap assessment. You identify this is the particular approach that you have to go. Once you identify the approach, you have to find what are all the problems that are associated with the approach. That if I go ahead and hire new talents for the company, then what are the problems that I could face? Do you have a budget problem? How will I address that particular problem? So you have to list out all the problems, and you have to list out your potential solutions on how you could overcome the problems. So these two areas are where a consultant plays in. And once that is done, you identified the problem, then comes your data analyst. So you have to provide a set of steps for your data analyst for a data collection purpose. So let's from here on, let's discuss a particular case. Let's assume that a particular personal care company, let's say a L'Oreal, has to find out what type of nail polish that it has to make that it could satisfy the customers. So for that particular problem, you have to understand what customers like. So where do a customer go and post information about the things that they like? So this is where your social networking and social feeds come in. So data analysts, what they would do is they would go to each of these social networking sites, develop custom built Python codes, such as your social networking sites could be the community owned by the particular company, or it could be your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram. You have to extract all the data that the customer posts as a review, and from there you could identify trends that you could help in for making a new product. So, for example, a few trends that that the particular company could find is in terms of color. So, what color does my customer want? So, your customer goes in and then goes in and posts a feature such as pearly white, cinnamon spice, a cloudy gray. So, these are the trends that these these are the trends that a company would like to discover. So for that, you should extract all the feeds that are available in your social networking sites. So that would be your data collection phase. Now, once you have the data is not in a structured format. So here is a problem that comes to understand what is a structured and unstructured data. An unstructured data is a structured data is something that is actually formatted and organized. Something, if you could say, in form of a table. Uh, I hope all of you know what database means and the relationship between the tables, where if you store information in a database, you can eventually track it, and you can also relate it with all the other tables in that particular database. So that is an example of a structured data, while an unstructured data could be something like an image, a video, or an audio, where you cannot process or analyze the data as it is. Then what you have to do is you have to convert that particular data that you have available to a structured format. And once you convert the data into a structured format, then comes the role of a data engineer. So you have your data here, and you have converted your unstructured data into a structured data. Now, let's assume that your data from the news feeds, they are not going to be in terms of your Excel file. So, like Hariharan already pointed out, an Excel file could only save million rows, and the data that you have downloaded could be in terms of GBs or even TBs. So, what would you do there? You would have to store it in a cloud. So an example for cloud, or an analogy for a cloud, I guess, would be Netflix. So what were we doing before we had Netflix or Prime or any other streaming sites? We used to download the movies and we store it on our space, the system space. So now when the Netflix came in, you don't need to download the movies. You can always have access to the movies, but there is only two striking difference with this particular analogy, where the data that you store in cloud can be easily accessed. At the same time, your data will only be privy to you. Your data has privacy, and not anyone can view your data. And you can only pay as you go. You pay as you use. So you don't have to, unlike Netflix, you don't have to pay 800 a month for continued services. You can pay as much as of the data you have to use. So this is a new, this is a trend that has been happening for the past 10 years, where companies are now migrating from their legacy systems to cloud, storing the data that they have in the cloud, so that you will not have to bear the expenses of your infrastructure. So this particular work of transferring the data that you have in hand to a cloud requires your data engineers who are working with your cloud platforms such as AWS or Azure. What they do is they form data pipelines and they insert the data to the pipelines. They also do some validation checks to ensure that the data that is inserted from one end and the data received at the other end are the same. So this is where your data engineers play. Once you have your data set in the cloud, then your analysts come again. They do the extrapolatory data analysis. So an extrapolatory data analysis is something that you do to check whether your data is you have to find the particular. So let's assume that if you are going to track what will be the revenue of a company based on the data that you have for past 10 years. In that case, your revenue variable will be your dependent variable or the variable that you're trying to find. And the other variables could be something like the business units, number of business units, the number of services that the company provide, and so on. So once you have your dependent variable, you have to identify all the you have to identify the importance of the dependent variable on each of the independent variables and also find patterns in the data. That is where your extrapolatory data analysis happens. And once it is done, this is where your data scientists come in. So you have your data available in hand. You have to model it in such a way that you can predict or provide some certain courses of action in the future. So, data scientist is someone who plays with the machine learning models such as regression, classification, and any and the other higher end machine learning algorithms. So, what they do is they take the data that you have in hand, they model it, and they check whether the model is working fine by doing validity tests every now and then. Once you find that your model is valid, they take that model and then the data engineers then come again, they deploy the model on the cloud on the data that is available on the cloud through, again, with the help of your AWS or Azure, and they deploy the model there. So nothing is in your physical systems now. Everything is residing in the cloud. So every time you need, if a client asks you for a particular information, let's say, can you track me or can you get me how the sales of my May month would be, May month was, then you have to go to your cloud. You have to connect to your cloud with the help of your SQL tools, and you have to code to get that particular information. Let's say when you are talking about SQL and the databases, you extract certain information that is available in the cloud. Then you present it to them in form of visualization. So when you are talking about visualization, the major tools that are used in the industry would be Tableau and your Power BI. So this is how an entire data analysis problem looks. So once you have a problem, you have to identify, once you have an objective, you have to identify what is the problem behind it. Then you have to follow frequent steps to it. You have to you may have to develop a model, you have to deploy it. Then you have to finally visualize the data with the help of your visualization tools such as your Tableau or your Power BI. So yeah, this is your data analysis lifecycle in short. I think Hari, you can take it over from here.
Hey, thanks, Atapan. It was very well explained. So I've explained you what data analysis is, and I explained you what machine learning is, and Sathapan has explained how a typical workflow looks like, right? And also so I have a typo in there. I have double T for this. Okay, I should change it later. So we have data scientists, data analysts, we have ML engineers and AI researchers, right? So what are these? What are the differences between all, or what are the similarities as well? Okay. So data analysts, data scientists, machine learning engineers, artificial intelligence, AI researchers, right? So what are the core skills? So analyst core skill is data analytics expertise. As soon as you see the data, you'll be able to, your brain will start taking, how to break down the data, how to break down the problem, how would I come up with insights, trends, and whatnot, how would I come up with recommendations and all that. So data analytics expertise is the core skill for data analysts. They're really good at they're really good at problem solving. And data scientists, so obviously machine learning, and machine learning engineers. So data scientists and machine learning engineers, they have so much in common, and also they have some uncommon aspects as well. So the most important skill sets for both of them is machine learning. And what is the main difference? So data scientists, they typically work with business people, and machine learning engineers, they typically work with engineering aspects of it. For example, right, I'm a data scientist. I work at Box. So what do I do? So if any problems comes in any particular department within a company, so that data problem comes to my team, and then we analyze the problem and we try to give solutions. For example, let's say in the last 1 year, there were so many people leaving my company, let's say, and the HR team comes to me and saying, okay, so it seems like people are leaving the company more in the last 1 year. So what am I supposed to do to stop it, right? So it's a question. So what do I do? I understand this problem. I get the data, relevant data. So yeah, employee data, right? So how many people are there in the company? What salaries are they getting? What is their designation? What is their title? Did they get promote or not? What is the skill sets and what on? So I have all this data set and I build a machine learning model. So that model will tell me so which person is going to leave the company next 3 months or 6 months and whatnot. So by building this model, I make the final presentation and then go and sit with our HR team and then tell them, okay, this is the trend. This is what is happening. So if you are not giving more compensation to this level of people, then you're not gonna keep them in the company. So this is an example, right? Let's say there is another company, other team, product team. So the product team comes to me and saying, okay, Hari, I have a product, so I want to test some new feature. For example, right, in Facebook, we have this timeline feature. So timeline feature was introduced like a few years back, right? Before that, there was no timeline view. So when they made the features change, right? So this is a change in product. So what they would not do it for every user. So what do they do? They go to data scientists and tell the problem. Okay, so this is the product change that we want to do. So how do we do it? So the data scientists will give them recommendation. Okay, so there is something called A/B testing, hypothesis testing. We select a bunch of random people and then try to give this timeline views for only those people and see how they react to it. Based on that, so we will see whether this will work when we give it to all. I mean all users. So any data problem that comes under your company within any department, so that comes to data science team, and then they try to understand the business problem and try to give solutions for it. So typically they work with multiple business problems. If you take, on the other hand, if you take machine learning engineers, they have a rich specific problem. For example, self-driving cars. How can, I think someone is not mute. Hello? Rajesh, can you mute it? Okay. So guys, please make sure your laptop or phone is mute. Okay, cool. So as I was saying, right, so data scientists, they typically work with different sets of business problems, but machine learning engineers, they work on one specific problem for a longer period of time. For example, self-driving cars. So that's a problem statement they are working on. So what are they supposed to do? They have to make self-driving cars work, and also they need to keep improving the algorithm so that it will avoid all the losses or it will avoid all the edge cases. So typically, that's the major difference between machine learning engineers and data scientists. So how would you choose whether you want to become a machine learning engineer or data scientist, right? If you really like working on different problem statements, and if you like working with different business stakeholders, and if you like presentation and whatnot, data scientist job would be the perfect fit for you. And if you love coding, and if you're a software engineer already, you have some development experience, then machine learning, you can learn machine learning and you can become a machine learning engineer. So that's a major difference. They have so much of overlap. So what are artificial intelligence, AI researchers, right? So they are basically researchers, as the name suggests, right? So most of them would be having a PhD. So they would have done some research on different domains. So the main skill set is machine learning with research experience in a specific domain. For example, one of my teammates is a neuroscientist. So he got a PhD and he got a postdoc in Cornell, and he was working on fish brains for like more than 12, 13 years. And then he started, liking machine learning. So he was trying to capture fish brain cells, and then he was trying to classify them in a different way. So that's when machine learning was used in his project. So that's when he got, he fell in love with machine learning, and he started, working on machine learning. So, but if you look at his actual domain knowledge, it's neuroscience. It's not machine learning. So that's what I'm talking about. So if you are into some research, and then if you want to use machine learning, and you want to use machine learning into your project or in a particular problem statement. So that's where we see researchers. So this is the core skill sets for these four types. And what are the skill sets? So what am I supposed to, what my resume is supposed to have when I go for these jobs, right? So for data analysis, analysts, it's SQL, MS Excel, Tableau, Power BI, as Satyapan mentioned, and analytical ability and presentation skills. And for data scientists, whatever I mentioned for data analysis and Python, Hadoop. So Python is one of the best languages used in the industry. So people used to use R as well. So R is not used anymore or used in very few companies. The reason is Python has so many packages and it can be easily integrated with many different packages or languages or algorithms coming up. So Python is very famous among data science world. So Python, Hadoop Hive is to handle big data, Shell, Bash, and of course machine learning. And then you need to be really good at solving business case problems. So because different business cases will be very different. There'll be a day where you'll be working on optimizing, marketing spend, and the next day you'll be working on, product adoption. So you'll work under different business cases. So you have to be really good at business case problems and hypothesis testing. And Spark and Spark, Hadoop, Hive. These are all for senior data scientists, but it's all for data scientists and for machine learning engineers. If you come this side, it's mostly the same. So except business case studies, you have to have good software engineering experience. You need to be a really good coder. And AI researchers, right? So as I mentioned again, so whatever skill sets for data scientists and machine learning engineers. Apart from that, they must have done some research, and then they have to be really good at some particular domain. And qualification, right? So typically, so when I say qualification, it's not a hardcore one. So it typically changes from company to company, country to country, but still, this is a typical expectation from companies, right? So for data analysis, so when you're doing B or BSc or whatever, right? So when you do bachelor's, when you come out of your college, you can apply for data analyst job and you can get it easily. And for data scientists, they typically expect people to have masters, or if you have bachelor's degree only with 4 or 5 industry experience, you can get into data scientist job. For example, in my case, right, I did not do post graduation. I just did engineering from CEG, and then I learned everything. So with uh, all my teammates are PhD or postdoc, I'm the only person who do not have post graduation because that portion is compensated by my years of experience in the industry. So machine learning engineers. So again, the same thing. Artificial researchers, obviously PhD or postdoc, and they typically expect computer science masters with a solid domain knowledge. So I think I mean, it's a lot of thing to consume now, but when you look at the slide later, you'll understand what to know. So since most of the participants are college students, just focus on data analysts for now. I want to quickly show you different roles and responsibilities of these types in the actual world. Shanta, are you able to see my screen? I'm on Chrome now.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, so cool. So for example, this one is a data analyst job at Facebook, right? In Menlo Park. So this is the roles and responsibilities for data analyst. If you just skim through it, and then if you just look at it, right, you can find few things here. Whatever I just told you, SQL, right? So you need to have SQL, and then let's say effectively communicate effectively with external clients. Communication, BSc qualification with good visualization skills. SQL, good communication. Excel, right? Knowledge with Excel. Data management projects. Python, preferred qualification, Python, and all this project management experience. So all this, right? So this is how they actually recruit and data analysis. This is the actual job description of Facebook. So if you just have all those skill sets that I mentioned, you are good to give interviews for data analyst job. Okay, data scientist job. So this is for junior position in my team box. Okay, so what will you do? Design features and building machine learning models to solve business problem at Box. Collaborate with multiple stakeholders at Box, as I told you, right? You work with product, engineering, marketing skills, blah, blah, blah. And collaborate with data analysts to brainstorm potential machine learning applications. Design and deploy pipelines to power data-driven decision making. What do they look for? MS, Masters or PhD? If you have Master PhD, 1+ years of experience, SQL, Python, Scala, Spark, Hadoop, Linux, good communication skill. So these are some of the examples of these jobs, right? And also for machine learning job, so this is for Amazon. So this is for machine learning engineering at Amazon. So keyword common APIs, technical strategy, investigate a prototype, building prototype, high quality software, agile, preferred qualification, machine learning, building machine learning statistical models, comfortable fast pace. What else? 2 years of non-professional software development experience, and you should be good at some language. 1 year experience with masters and all of that. So I just want to give you a quick view of how the actual roles and responsibilities look like for these jobs and for research scientists at Google AI, right? So you look at that PhD in computer science, programming experience, experience in natural language and computer vision, strong publication record, obviously, and good industry experience, and all of that. Participate in cutting edge research, machine learning intelligence, and develop solutions for the real world. So these are some of the actual examples of these four job types, guys. So for example, in my case, right, I started as a data analyst, and then I had a dilemma whether to get into data scientist field or in machine learning field. So I asked this question: so would I be, would I do that for another 10 years, sitting with engineers, building machine learning models, work on a specific problem, and keep improving the model and algorithm and whatnot? So and versus data scientists, where I get to work with different stakeholders and having different stakeholder conversation, different presentation, working on different business problem statements. That is more for me. So this is a personal question. So whenever you ask a question, you need to think about yourself, what you like, what you really like, what you don't like, and then think about your future steps. So for college students, if any data analytics company come to CEG campus, they typically look for these skill sets only. And also they won't ask you questions in SQL because you are still not in the industry. But if you know SQL, in your college itself, then that's a boom in your resume. So if I used to come to CEG campus, and I used to go to other campuses for recruiting. So when someone had SQL in their resume, I just asked them. I just called them first, because knowing SQL and all these skill sets in college, it's a big deal. Cool. Okay, so we talked a lot about what machine learning is, data sciences and whatnot, and we have seen some job description and everything. So once I send the deck, you can go through the job description slowly and you'll understand everything. Okay, so Anna, I've understood everything. So tell me what to study. How do I start? How do I prepare, right? So I've given some study materials that you can go through. So if you're in college and if you want to get into data analyst job, so this is what you're supposed to have. And I'm a person who learned everything on my own. So I didn't do masters, right? So I was more of online course watcher or workshop lover, right? So instead of reading more books, I typically watch all these videos and everything. So that's the reason I've given you for statistics. I have given YouTube free, and most of the courses I've given here are free. So you don't have to spend any money for it. And all courses, so many courses are available, and everything is really good. I would say do not spend any money on learning all these things. Everything is free, guys. And what you have to do is you need to search the right content and learn it. Okay, so for statistics, Brandon Foles is one of the best data scientists in the US, and he has made statistics 101 courses. It's phenomenal, and the way he explained everything is from scratch, so anyone can understand. Don't worry about it. He has like 50 videos with different topics. Every video is for like 50 minutes, 40 minutes. It's very good. Or if you want to go with Elements of Statistics Learning, it's one of the best books in this field. And if you click this link, you can get the you can download the book for free. Actually, download the PDF for free. So SQL, okay. So this is another online course for SQL and also Excel and Tableau. And having a certification in Tableau, I'm not talking about everything else. If you want to have certification, you can have with any course. But if you want to have certification in Tableau, I would strongly suggest you to get certification in Tableau itself. Tableau is a company. They have this visualization tool called Tableau, and they themselves give certification if you take it. And that course is paid course. I think they get $50, which is how much? It's less than 4,000, but it's really worth it, guys. If you get Tableau certification. So all this information is here. If you just click on the link, you will get there. And also, okay, so this is for data analysts, right? You need to learn statistics, SQL, Excel, Tableau. Don't spend money on it. Just spend your time and try to learn everything slowly. So that is the key, main important thing, guys. Because I used to mentor a lot of students and master students. The problem is, they don't have patience. So they want to learn everything in 1 month or 2 months. It's not going to happen, guys. It will take, So if you want to learn everything here, whatever I have in this particular slide, it's going to take at least 6 months. When I say 6 months, you learn everything with, let's say 9 out of 10 expertise level. So that's what people also need, because when you're looking at machine learning, you do not need to know so many things, but whatever you need to know it with full expertise level. So make sure you learn everything slowly, steadily. When you have questions, ask people around, ask seniors, or try to find answers in Google, and everything is in your hand. Cool. For data scientists, right? So once you're sure about this one, you can move on to this section and then learn Python. Python, again, as I told you, it's one of the it's the major language used in data industry. Again, it's a free course, machine learning course. There's a course by Andrew Ng. It's one of the so many people have taken this course, and A/B testing, and also, so these are the courses with technical skill sets, right? So I and Sathapan talked about business acumen and business skill sets. How do you learn it? So you learn business skill sets by solving cases. How do you solve cases? There are books in here. So you can buy these books and then try to learn everything slowly and try to understand it. There are different frameworks to solve different problems. Try to learn it, try to make a presentation, try to attend many mock interviews. And I think Sigana is also conducting mock interviews. So to attend mock interviews, you will try to solve problems and all of that. So those books will be helpful for solving cases. And then there is so much information outside, guys. So don't believe everything. So what I typically suggest people is to follow these 3 things. One is towards data science. So that's a forum where people talk about their actual work in the company. And analytics Vidya. So towards data science is owned by Medium, I guess. Analytics Vidya is an Indian company. So they have a beautiful forum where Indian data scientists, they come and write so many things. So the main difference between towards data science and Analytics Vidya is more around Indian companies, so that you will have more exposure towards what Indian companies expect versus other companies, and towards data science is global. And Medium. So Medium is one of the best way to learn anything. So especially for data science, people, you are not in the industry, right? So when you're not in the industry, how do you know what people do in the company on a daily basis? You learn all these things, that's okay. But how do I know what people actually do sitting on the desk? So people write all their articles in Medium. Like, okay, this is the problem I was trying to solve. How did I go about it? What data did I collect? What machine learning model I used? Did I use Python? If I use Python, what is the code? What is the how did I measure the success of my model and whatnot? So they write complete articles, and I have also written few articles in Medium. So there is another forum called Kaggle. So Kaggle is a data science competitions platform. So different companies, they post their problem in Kaggle, and then anyone can log in and then try to solve the problem using machine learning. So that your answers and everything will be posted there. The top winners will be awarded, and you will have a rank over a period of time. So whatever rank that you get out of Kaggle is valued more in data science industry. And Kaggle is recently acquired by Google. Now we have so many good data scientists over there. And also, I would strongly suggest you to follow many good data scientists over there, so that you form a network so that you can understand more from outside world. Okay, so now we have now I mean we know what machine learning is, we know what data analytics is, and we know what different job profile means, and we also know what to study. Okay, after studying, how do I build my portfolio? So portfolio is something where you have all your skill sets at one place, and then show the people, okay, this is what I know and this is what I have done, right? And this is really helpful for, especially for people who are not in the same domain. Let's say you are a software developer at a company, or you are a student still sitting in college, or you are a master student, but you do not have industry experience. So this portfolio will be able to move your resume up compared to everyone who were already had similar experience. Cool. So GitHub. So what is GitHub? So GitHub is a one-stop shop, coding repository. So people who write any form of code, they upload their code into GitHub, and many people collaborate and then work on different codes, and then they try to use that code. So GitHub have personal licenses as well as enterprise licenses. People who is working on enterprise, for example, me, I work GitHub Enterprise. So if you're if you're a student, you can create free GitHub account, and then you can after creating a GitHub account, you can learn how to use GitHub. First of all, what is Git, how to upload your code in there, how to collaborate with multiple people, how to fork and everything. So for example, if you click on this, so GitHub, right? So you see this free. So you join for free and then create your account first. Once you create it, so try to take this course. So it's a YouTube course. It's very free. I mean, it's very simple and neat. And for example, if you look at the actual GitHub profile, for example, this one, so I follow this guy, David, right? So if you look at this one, this is how GitHub looks like. So for example, if you look at this one, he has a bunch of folders. I go to this, then final project. Right, so he has his code in here. So GitHub is basically a code repository. You can have Git account for free and then have your code in there. So so when you're in an interview, right, you can tell people, okay, I know Python, or I know Java, or I know whatever, right? But how do I actually know whether you know Python without testing you? So that's where all this Git profile, is very, very, very helpful. And next one is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is very, very powerful, especially in recent times. And also GitHub recently is acquired by Microsoft. So they're doing a lot of changes. It's really good. And LinkedIn is one of the best places to connect with professionals, and also job recruiters. They have different plans in LinkedIn. So when they're looking for data science, let's say, right? So they read. So LinkedIn algorithm reads job description and your summary and everything, and then job recruiters can reach out to you for any opening position. So I used to get at least 1 or 2 messages in LinkedIn from different job recruiters daily. So you need to make sure you have a LinkedIn account, and also make sure it looks like your resume. So they don't have to even look at your resume. Just by looking at your LinkedIn profile, they should be able to call for a job. So for example, this is my LinkedIn profile. You can refer mine. So this is the summary I have about me. So the algorithm will read the summary, and if you have data science or data scientist, some similar words, it will choose your profile. And also, so in about, I have written my skill sets. So what I've done in my current job. So just by reading about my about session, people will understand, what I've done in the past. And also, this is one of the articles I wrote in Medium. So basically, this is like a one-stop shop, right? So what I've done, so I've grown. So create a LinkedIn profile and have connections with people. And also, this is really helpful when you start applying for jobs. So we have so many CGNs at different companies. So you can ping CG seniors and then ask them questions and ask them to refer you for a particular position in a company. And certifications. So this is a frequently asked question, right? So do you have to do certification? Certification it's not a must. But if you do certification, it's good. So if you and if it's for free, it's well and good, but it's not a must. But in my personal experience, right? So if you're doing certification, you need to make sure you understand everything thoroughly. Don't just take certification just for the sake of taking it, because that doesn't matter if you don't know the actual core subject behind it. Okay, so portfolio. So this is not really a must, but if you have it, believe me, people will love you. So there is an article about how to build portfolio. So read about it. So portfolio is nothing but a blog or website. So there are so many blogs that you can create, online for free, or you can create websites online for free. So you don't have to know PHP or website creating languages. There are free online website creating sites. There you can go and then drag and drop and then create your own blog or website. In there you can have everything as a one stop shop. For example, this I love his portfolio, right? So this is David's portfolio, right? So if you click on view portfolio, okay, so courses I created data camp. He has created courses at data camp. So you can see this here. And then projects that he worked on, and then content he created this one. And for example, right, personal projects, whatever he has done. For example, you guys are in college, right? So most of the guys, when you create your portfolio, you need to uh, download public data sets available, and then try to create more visualization or machine learning models and whatnot. For example, if you look at this, he has done some exploratory data analysis, right? So he explains, what he's doing. So 2016 new core survey. So what is the data set about new variables? And so, what does the data tell? What does the data set tell them? And what is univariate, bivariate, and everything? So that's what I'm talking about, guys. So if you're creating all your projects, or if you're writing articles, or if you have a GitHub profile and everything, or if you're creating some content, yeah, anything, right? You can just have one blog or one website like this. Then you can have all the hyperlinks here, so that you can just have this particular link in your resume and then send it to people, so that they will go after it, they'll go through it, and they will call for you for the interview, right? So portfolio is one of the recent trends. So if you're able to create one, it's well and good. I'm also trying one for me. So competition forum, right? So recently, people give more value to people who have very good Kaggle ranks. So as I already told you, right? So many data scientists, they come and they create, they work on different data science problems. So you can go to Kaggle. I mean, don't worry about it, guys. So even if you're not data science, that's okay. Go to all these websites and try to see what they actually do. So go to Kaggle and try to see, you can compete, you can get data sets. So there are so many publicly available data sets here. So when I say, create your own project, so that's what I mean. You can just download these, for example, right? COVID open research data set challenge. So you can download all of these data sets for free, and then try to create a visualization in Excel or in Tableau or whatever, right? So that's how you create a portfolio, guys. So creating portfolio is very, very helpful when you apply for masters, or apply for job, or apply for PhD as well. So yeah, this is how you create a portfolio. Okay, so how do I get a job, right? First thing, so resume. So make sure your resume is really good. So there are different ways to write resumes. So this article really tells you, how to create a good resume. Read this, and then when you're in college, how do I get prepared for the interviews, mock interviews, guys? Do many interviews as much as possible. Different companies have different set of interviews, and different domains have different set of interviews. So make sure you align yourself with that. Knowing about the companies and their business model. Yeah, this is one of the key points, especially for students, right? So sometimes people do not have any idea about that company. For example, so Sathapan is from dataanalytics. I'm from Box. So how does how do those companies make actually revenue? For example, you use Lyft, right? Or you use YouTube, you use Facebook. How do they make money? So you need to, when you apply for a particular company, you need to understand how this company, what their business model is, how they make revenue, how many users are there for that company, and all of this. So when you're talking with the HR or any senior managers, right? When you talk key points about the companies, they really like it. And apply through referrals, right? So when you go, you can apply for jobs through careers from the website itself, but the probability of picking your resume is very low. So always try to have good network. So when I say network, try to connect with all people from CEG in the respective domain, and try to ask them to refer you. And when you talk to your seniors, even though seniors are and they're glad to help juniors, but still some juniors, right? I have to really say this, guys. So many juniors from CEG, right? They just ping me in LinkedIn and say, "Anna, I'm your junior from CEG. Can you please refer me in box?" I would not do it, guys, because the reason is, when you want to get a job, try to go to that company website, try to read about the company, try to read more about the actual role that you're interested in, and try to read it multiple times and try to understand what they actually want, and send the actual link and try to say, okay, now this is what I wanted to apply for, and seems like I have these skill sets and this is my resume. Can you give more suggestion looking at my resume, and be polite. Just because we are all from CEG, not everyone is going to help you. So make sure you are sincere about it, and if you are sincere, people will help, right? Not only CEGs, anyone will help you. And again, read roles and responsibilities a million times. Again, read it again and again. So many people, they lose their heart when they get rejected from a company. Most of them are rejected mainly because it's a mismatch. So you would have something in your resume, but what the company is actually looking for would be very different. So make sure whatever they ask for is there in your resume. So in order to get that practice, you need to read it more and make sure you have the same thing in your resume. Follow Glassdoor interview experiences, right? So for example, I want to click and show this. So Glassdoor is a forum where people come and share their interview experiences, and then you can, for example, right, this is for data scientist interview at Facebook, right? So you have so many people talking about their interview experience, and they tell the questions as well, right? What questions they've been asked, and they try to give answers and everything. For example, this guy, so he did not get offer, but he had a positive experience. So interview, he talks about the interview. Similarly, bunch of how would you improve notifications? Tell me about yourself and why data science. Tell me about data science experiment project that you have already worked on. So these are the questions that was actually asked by Facebook recruiters, and whatever the answers they gave. So this is really helpful to go through it and then prepare accordingly. So use Glassdoor a lot, and also practice. So there is a coding challenge. Try to practice coding online. There is so many online coding platforms. HackerRank is one of them. And again, talk to seniors and professionals. Try to understand what is their daily life look like. So segment the companies after. Okay, this is one of the most important things, guys. So when you start preparing for companies, don't just prepare generically. So what I mean is, basically, let's say you are going to apply for Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, right? So these three companies are very similar. How? They're all social networking platforms. So the pain points or the problems, whatever they're facing in their companies, would be very similar. So always try to segment or group companies with respect to their business model, and prepare accordingly. For example, if you're applying for Amazon, Walmart, Flipkart, so their pain points is going to be the same. So they'll ask the majority of the questions asked by those companies will be the same. So segment these companies and then apply accordingly. Yeah. So we have some. I have some frequently asked questions here. Or we can actually ask questions here if you have time. Satapan, do we have questions written over there in the?
Yeah, we have a few questions over here. So there is this interesting question. So how interested are the investors to invest in an analytics firm? I think Akbar asked this question.
Okay, so would you want to take it?
No, you go ahead. I will take the other question. Yeah.
Okay, just like any other company, right? So So different analytics companies do different things, right? So some companies, they do work with clients. They're mostly service firms. They work with their clients, and then they try to provide some solutions, right? So what happens when when their clients go off? Let's say we are in COVID situation. Many companies are closing out. Many companies are going in bankrupt, right? So when many companies are going out in the US or UK, their clients, right? So what will happen to the service companies sitting in India or any other firm, right? So they will lose their clients, they'll lose their projects. So if analytics investors typically look at the percentage of service versus product. So if the service is like 70% and the product that they have from the analytics firms is like 20 or 30%, they will not weight it more. So analytics companies that create different analytical products, that is valued more. For example, there are multiple companies. So there are so many .ai companies coming up. For example, there's a company called H2O.ai. They are creating many driverless AI. So what they basically do is, if you use their product, you don't do actual machine learning. You don't need a data scientist. Just by using their product, you can do all the machine learning as a one-stop shop. So investors typically look at these kinds of things, and obviously all other typical investor checklists. Shanta, I think you will have more ideas about that. If you want to answer, you can.
What I think would be best is to actually collect these questions, and we can have a frequently asked question post that is sent out to all the attendees, but also made as part of our knowledge base. I think Karthik will tell you that, a lot of people have so many questions that we are building this knowledge base which exists today. Karthik, you want to say something?
Sure. You've said it almost completely. This is part of efforts from the alumni to create a knowledge base called Gindi Online Live Database, otherwise known as GOLD. You'll hear from us more to where you can put all the answers, and you can create your own alumni, and students can actually add to it.
Cool. Thanks, Karthik, Shanta.
Since we have 2 more minutes left in the webinar, I see some of them have left. So either we can have a few more minutes to answer questions, or we can say, this is the end of the webinar and let's answer all the questions. It's up to you, Hari.
Yeah, sure. Satapan, can you read 1 or 2 questions from students? I would like to answer some questions from students.
So there is the other question. Python code to be available in GIS tool or Excel tools. So that is the question. I think it was asked by Manikanda Bharat. If he is there, you could elaborate more on the question so that we could answer to it, because currently, we are not getting the question.
Satapan, do you want to take it? I don't think I understood the question completely.
Yeah, even I. So the question reads like this: Python code to available in GIS tools or Excel tools.
Okay. Python. Is there any other question? I want to address some generic questions, not specific questions. We can address those questions in FAQ later.
So there is this question. Forecasting is a tedious yet important job for manufacturing companies. Also, different type of items to be produced require different models of forecasting. So how far will machine learning help in accurate forecasting, especially if the need of the customer changes according to the external environment?
Okay, so forecasting itself is a very big aspect of machine learning. So as you mentioned, right, in manufacturing or in if you are in sales any operations, they use estimation and forecasting a lot. And also, I would also ask you to check. Facebook has created 3 algorithms just for forecasting. So it's called the Prophet, I guess. So I used in one of my models. It's really good. So you don't do anything. You just upload your data set and then use Prophet. It will give you awesome forecasting. And also, I will send you some of other forecasting techniques and what to read, where to read.
In the interest of time, I would like to just add to what Hariharan was saying. So, so I would just take an example of a company that was trying to produce different type of parkas. A parka would be something like a hooded jacket, right? So there they had a problem similar to this, where your customer needs are changing every season, and they need to know an exact amount of parkas to produce, so that they do not need to face the problem of either overstock or not selling this. So there, what they did was they conducted virtual. They conducted fashion show. I mean, they conducted fashion shows. So with a primary range of the available parkas to identify the consumer demand in that particular for each of them, and then they came up with the forecasting solution. So at times you will have to look into both the consumer angle and at the same time the forecasting with the help of data. So that will help. I think we will just take a little bit of time on the FAQs that you already have, so that
Okay.
will give a good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read the FAQs, right? Okay. I'm not really good at coding, so can I aspire to be a data analyst? Of course, yes. So I was from ECE. I had zero knowledge in coding till CEG. So when I came out, I started learning coding. The reason why it's not that important is because when you try to solve more business cases, that itself will interest you, and then you will learn coding eventually. So don't worry about it. So next question is, do I need masters to become a data scientist? Not necessary again. So I myself, an example, right? So if you have industry experience in machine learning field, you don't need masters. But if you really want to do masters, and if you really want to learn more technically, then masters is one of the good options for sure. And our certifications are really important. Again, I explained that question. Post graduation in India and abroad. So we have very good post graduation courses in India as well. In ISC and in IIMs also, they have very good courses. So if you want to stay in India, and it depends on multiple factors, right? How much are you planning to spend? Whether you want to be in India, or how much time you want to spend on your post graduation and whatnot. But it's up to you guys. Even India has very good post graduation courses. Okay, how do I improve my presentation or communication skills from college? Again, as I mentioned, right, you need to talk more, you need to present more. We will try to have some seminar or webinar on how to improve your communication or presentation skills later. Yeah, we will discuss among ourselves and let you know, guys.
Hari,
Yep.
can I say something?
Yep.
So with respect to presentation skills, I think it's a good idea to reach out and see whether there are places which can help you with public speaking. And I have been trying to see if we can create a Toastmasters club in CEG. So
I would love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think we are past our time.
Yeah, sorry. Just to add one question. So do I need to do my do I need to do my post graduation in India or abroad? It's actually your decision whether you have to go towards business side or the technology side. So if you're going towards the tech side, I would always say MS is a very good degree to have, and that you can have overseas. And then if you're going to go in for business, yeah, again, it is definitely good to have in your if you have to write. So for business side, I would probably recommend to do it in India, in IIMs. Yeah, that or some other very good institutes like FMS, NITI, and the other ones. Yeah, depending upon where you need to. Yeah.
Shanta, go ahead.
Yeah, no, should we wrap it up? It's 8:04.
Yeah. So
sure.
thank you guys so much for all your interest. Sathapan and I really loved doing the presentation, and thank you Shanta and Karthik and everyone else for organizing this. Thank you.
Well, let me give a big thanks to you, Hari and Sathapan. Give them a big applause. This been a wonderful webinar, and you touched all the relevant points for students with real world examples and real world information. I think it's excellent. So thank you so much.
Thank you. One more thing, it's as a personal agenda, right? So I have recently started my YouTube channel, Logged On with Hari, and I have been interviewing a lot of interesting folks from CEG in different domains. So if you're interested, please watch it, and it will be helpful for people who are at different domains. Thank you.
Thank you, Hari, Satapan. Thanks everybody
Thank
for
you all.
attending.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.